Welcome back. You're still watching Newsnight, and tonight you're asking the question, is Parliament's vetting exercise real vetting, or is it just conveyor belt? We've been asking this question and we're getting responses from you. Before I engage my guest, let me take a look at the feedback that we've been sharing with us via Twitter. Citizen TV Kenya Samgi Tuku, the hashtag to use is Newsnight. LJ Sindani, you're saying, from the debate in the National Assembly on CS's nominees, I think we should do away with the vetting. It's a waste of time and resources. The vetting committee and the National Assembly appear to be mere rubber stamps. A president should just be allowed to appoint the CS's. No vetting. All right. Someone else, Nyachai, you're saying that going by Penina Malonza's education, training and experience, she would appear more suited for the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection and not Tourism and Wildlife. Anyway, what happens when CSAs are transferred mid-term? For instance, Aisha Jumwa to Finance. Okay, quite a question. Godi Baraza Were, in the spirit of the bottom-up approach, the Parliament, or rather Parliament, should approve Penina Malonza's cabinet entry. Assuredly, she can learn on the job as she represents those who are oftentimes looked down upon in society. Someone else here is saying, Augustino Juma, you're saying, I agree with the committee. Let's appoint leaders basing on the competence. If you can't express yourself before a committee, how then can you represent Kenya before nations to market our tourism sector? And we'll be looking at more feedback later on, including Tanki Gilbert, who is saying that rejection of CS nominee Malonza is as a result of lack of understanding about tourism docket and unpreparedness before the panel. Funny figures. You don't go for presentation with suspicious research, especially when the country is in dire need of experts. Let me begin by introducing my guests tonight. Robert Mbu is the Member of Parliament for Kathiani constituency. He's also the Deputy Minority Leader in the National Assembly, also sat in the Cabinet Vetting Committee, or the Appointments Vetting, Committee on Appointments of the National Assembly. Gadano Mushamba is the Member of Parliament for Githunguri constituency in Kiambu County. Good evening, both of you.
Good evening. Good evening, Sam.
Let me begin with you, Gathoni, because you didn't sit in that committee. And looking at the report, but also some of the submissions that have been made by your colleagues in Parliament, what is your take, and especially on the two issues? First, on the rejection of Malonza, but secondly, the minority report recommending rejection of Aisha Jumwa and Mithika Linturi.
First of all, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here. Thank you for hosting us. And I also want to properly represent the women of Kenya, especially the members of Parliament, because you have forgotten to mention that I am their chairperson, Kenya Women Parliamentarian Association. And when I'm here, I am glad that I am also representing the women of the National Assembly and the National Senate. I also want to thank the leadership of the National Assembly for the speedy assignment that they have been able to execute through the appointment of the 24 persons that appeared before them. It's true I didn't sit in the appointment and approval committee, and my brother Mheshimiwa Mboi was present. But based on the report that we have been able to go through for the last 1.5 days, looks like there was a lot of work that was done. People presented, questions were asked, answers were given, convincingly or otherwise. But it's very unfortunate that out of the 24 that went through the screening, only one was unanimously rejected. It means that there must be something very serious that came out of that rejection. Of course, there were others that were, you know, there were divisions in terms of how many are supporting and how many are dissenting. But this very one that was rejected by everybody unanimously has been the topic of the discussion today in Parliament. And as a woman, I have a lot of questions I'm asking. Why her? Why not others? She presented her papers.
When you look at the reasoning, because the committee says that Penina Malonza did not demonstrate knowledge on topical administrative and technical issues touching on the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage, and Malonza lacked the requisite abilities and professional experience to be approved for appointment to the office of Cabinet Secretary. You're not convinced? Were you able to watch the vetting exercise?
Yes, I actually today I had to sit down and review the interview, you know, the session, just for me to be able to understand why should the whole committee just, you know, rest on her and decide she's not worth or she's not qualified or she cannot be able to, you know, execute the assignment mandate that has been given unto her. But to be honest, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced.
Okay, Honorable Mbui, what was this that was so pressing that you had to arrive at such a decision, which actually, like Honorable Gathoni here says, was unanimous?
First, Sam, thank you also for having me, because I think it's important that some of these things we set the record straight. I think there's a lot of confusion out there. People seem not to understand exactly what is going on. And I think there is one train of thought that seems not to understand what vetting is. I want to just mention this, that people go for interview. Are we to assume as Kenyans that every person who goes for interview and has got papers, they've gone to university, they have the requisite, whatever, maybe experience, they must be employed? The answer is no. There are those people who will appear at an interview and be able to convince the interviewing panel that they do qualify. The results, I mean, the credentials and the experience could be the same. But then there's also presentation. Now, on this matter of vetting, for heaven's sake, we did a vetting publicly, and it was televised. And so I wonder, when somebody talks about not knowing exactly what was noted about Penina Malonza, and it was in public domain, the public was also vetting. In fact, I can tell you, Sam, that by the time we were through with that nominee, the social media was awash with clips about some of the answers that she was giving. So the issue is that sometimes we also have to be honest with ourselves. Is this vetting just a mockery, or is it real? Because if you're going to take it as seriously as some of us do, then we must look at each individual and ask ourselves whether they qualify. For me, it wasn't just Malonza that we felt was not qualified. There were others. But when it comes to the issue of now making decisions and voting, of course, there were those that had more votes than others. She ended up failing from both sides of the house. So at the end of the day, I think it's a matter of competence. You know, Sam, if you go back to Kenyan history, she's not the first person to be rejected by a committee, the same committee of appointments. In 2013, the Honorable Phyllis Kandie was rejected by the committee. And just like what I'm seeing happening in the House now, a report was written by, at that time, you know, Jubilee had supermajority, almost 2/3. And they took a report to the House rejecting this nominee on grounds that they had observed her inability to understand the docket for which she was being appointed, because she was going to the East African Community docket, did not even understand the regional blocks like SADC. And so they said, look, she doesn't seem to have a grasp, which is one of the things that we are supposed to vet, but we must check the suitability. So when they returned a negative verdict, on the floor of the House, the same committee was whipped from outside the House to go and change that report
What do you mean whipped from outside?
Whipped from outside the House because instructions were coming from the House in the Hill. In Kenya, we call it State House. So instructions were coming from State House. And so the committee that had passed a report went against their own report and overturned their decision to reject the nominee, Phyllis Kandie, and approved her. And a few years down the road, I'm telling you, the president regretted.
Okay, I don't know how true that is, but I take it as your statement. Honorable Gathoni Mushomba, are there any instructions outside the House this time round because of what the committee has recommended on Malonza?
I am not aware of any. First of all, I want to remind you, and also maybe to state it very clearly, that we have been very optimistic that the 13th Parliament is going to be a different House. Different House because if you look at the kind of members that have come back, have been re-elected, the number is higher than the 12th Parliament. And every time you see a member being re-elected, it means that there's something that that member does or has that gives him or her credibility to be able to come back and serve a second term, third term, or fourth term. So looking at the numbers that have come back in the 13th Parliament, I think it's above 50%, and that tells you that this is going to be a very serious Parliament. And therefore, the level of independence is expected to be higher, and therefore we don't expect to get calls coming from exterior of the House, you know, directing the motions, directing the debate, and such decisions. But let me go back on Malonza's case. You know, not all of us are gifted to speak. not all of us are gifted to express ourselves. Not all of us are good with pen and paper. We have different capacities. And therefore, parading people in one platform and expecting them to give you the same results would not be really the right probability to use and to gauge anybody's capacity and potential. There are people who see cameras and they freeze, yet they are very intelligent. There are people who stammer, yet they are very intelligent. There are people who are not able to remember facts as you ask them spot on, but they are very good. So I do not want us to sit here and say, because she was not able to remember some international bodies, our trade bodies, she was not able to express herself because maybe she had camera fright, maybe she had parliament flight, maybe she was scared of some members shouting at her. Yeah, we need to give her a chance. That's the spirit of bottom up. And let me tell you, the spirit of bottom up is that paradigm shift from what we've been doing, from what we have been historically doing, to new ways of doing things.
And
let's
so,
give people an opportunity.
Mushomba, now that a committee of 21, chaired by the Speaker of the National Assembly, has sat down and decided that in their best of opinion, Malonza should not be a cabinet secretary, should that really matter now? Because now
yes, it should, because it is. How many more other Malonzas are in the field out there watching television, following her, and feeling like she represents them? What are we telling them? We are telling them because they cannot express themselves in front of a camera, they do not know what they are doing. We are telling them that the papers they are holding, because Malonza has good papers. I've looked at her papers today. She has very good papers. But just because she was not able to prove herself within 1.5 hours given to her in front of a commandeering, team of people. Because, of course, look at Mheshimiwa, the way he's looking right now. I mean, if 20 of them sat here and all of them are looking at you, some of us will fly away. I mean, we will go away.
Just hold on, Honorable Mboi. The Act, that is Public Appointments Act, Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, talks about the issues for consideration are suitability of the nominee, second, nominee's abilities, experience, and qualities, needs of the body to which nomination is being made, but also there are certain focus areas by the approval hearings, the candidate's academic credentials, professional training and experience, but also personal integrity and background. And I'm asking this question because there has been that excuse that we even had members of parliament speaking on the floor of the House that maybe stage fright, like Gatonio Mushomba here says. And so the question, should it really matter that yourself and 20 others sat down for a whole week to listen to these nominees? You are of the verdict that she should not be, but now there are different voices. Should it matter?
Actually, Sam, that's why I'm beginning to wonder whether there really should be need for vetting, because it looks like everybody has to give excuses. I mean, the things I've heard, including even, oh, she's from our tribe, or she's a woman, or she's widowed. I mean, all sorts of things. So, but the reality is that you've just read the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approvals Act of 2011, and it's very explicit. It's clear that we have to look at suitability of the nominee for the office for which that person is being appointed. And we must look at the person's abilities, experience, and qualities. Now, if you're telling us that this person in front of 21 members of parliament can freak out and be unable to communicate and cannot comprehend anything that they're being asked and cannot be coherent for 2 hours, then you're telling us this is a person who can run the docket of tourism ministry for the Republic of Kenya, that ministry that want to be the biggest earner of foreign exchange, that ministry that want to market this country out there. So if 21 members of parliament, half of whom are actually friendly and the other half are just asking questions, if you're scared of that kind of group, how will you manage when you're sitting with ministers of tourism in other countries, because we want to market Kenya out there? How will this person be able to convince a sitting? You can imagine those UN sittings and somebody is given an opportunity. Can you present, showcase Kenya? If what she was blabbering in that committee meeting are the kind of things she would say in that in such a forum, honestly, then we lose a script. And that is why we are saying that for that particular office, because we're looking at the suitability for that office. Maybe if it was another office where she didn't need to meet people and have to communicate with them, maybe even if it was finance, where she can just sit in the office and organize the budgets of the country. But this is an office that requires that person to be out there communicating on behalf of the country, to be the #1 ambassador in terms of tourism for the country, which is communicating with outsiders to bring them to this country. If she's scared of 21 members, how will she fare out there? That's my simple question.
You know, my brother, I am of the opinion that I don't think the real vetting that we are talking about, which we should actually maybe struggle to get the real meaning from the dictionary, is actually the vetting that happens in Parliament. Reason being, I looked at the whole report and I wondered, this Malonza, who everybody agreed to drop her name, has not contravened the Chapter 6 of the Constitution, has not been in court for the last 3 years, has not been in any political party as a leader, disqualifying her from the job, has not been dismissed in any office, does not hold a dual citizenship, holds a master's degree and a bachelor's degree and other short courses, has been a deputy governor of a county for 5 years, has been vetted to vie as a woman representative of a county by an independent body called IEBC. If this lady has gone through all this and has all these qualifications, yet within the 24 that has been interviewed, I mean the 21 that have been interviewed, there are people who have negatives of what I've mentioned. There are people who have serious court cases, people who have very serious issues of integrity, people who have very serious issues of contravening the Constitution. But we stand here and we say, because this lady probably doesn't have the net worth the others were talking about. The others were talking about billions of money. I own 1.2 billion, I'm worth 800 million, I'm worth how many billions? This lady, just because probably maybe she's nobody, she's nowhere, she has not been in the ladders of the others, she's just put in the dustbin.
You actually think that's...
So I am thinking that we must. For me, I am a Kenya Kwanza member, and we have been campaigning along the approach of bottom-up. We must learn how to put people where they look forward to becoming by giving them opportunity.
Okay, all right. Let's not.
Let me just respond to what Mheshimiwa has said on she's expected to go and sell Kenya. Yes, she's expected to go and sell Kenya. She's expected to go and represent Kenya, but she can still represent Kenya the way she is because that is a true Kenyan.
Okay. Let's not make the conversation about Penina.
Yeah, that's what I wanted
just hold on. And you just mentioned about the net worth. And of course, in totality, the cabinet nominees are worth more than 15 billion shillings combined. For Malonza, she's worth 300 million shillings, as she told the National Assembly Vetting Committee. So I'm not sure you want to say that she's the poorest.
Actually,
no, I'm not talking about. I'm not isolating the issue of just being not able to match the others. But I'm just trying to say we must put her in the right space where she belongs, representing the true hustlers, the true people that voted for Kenya Kwanza government.
You mentioned some issues, and I want now to focus on the other two nominees that there are questions about them. And Honorable Mbui, you are part of the authors of that minority report, and I know in our slides you've indicated that Stephen Mule also voted with the majority, which you told me earlier on that he was not part of the team that was making that decision. But the allegations against Mithika Linturi, he told you that he has 35 cases, pending cases, civil suit cases, but also spoke about one Aisha Jumwa, who has a pending murder case. How difficult was it to have a unanimous decision on these two nominees, whether to approve or to reject them?
Now, I want to first pick it from where my sister left. Because, you see, that's what I raised earlier, that people have shifted the conversation from what it really was to other issues. I mean, she's just mentioned that it was an issue of her net wealth. And in fact, I can tell you, from her own written document, she's worth 300 trillion, but that's what she wrote, but then she explained that it meant 300 billion. I mean 300 million. But what she had written is that, and I'm talking about the document which I saw, she's worth 300 million. You know, 300 million is 300 trillion. But all the same, I mean, she's not the poorest. There was 80 million, there was 100 million, 120 million. So at 300 million, she's still fairly, I mean, that's not a hustler, you know, at all. So it's not about money, it's not about gender, it's not about tribe. It's basically, if you look at that article that we are talking about, that public appointments parliamentary approvals, on her, the reasons that we picked was that part which says the nominee's abilities, experience, qualities, and suitability for that office that she's being nominated to. That was the decision. On the other hand, you have raised very pertinent issues, that there were also those that failed because of personal integrity. And on personal integrity, I was one of those that said that Bidhika Linturi and Aisha Jumwa really shouldn't be approved because they failed the test of integrity, in our opinion. So for us, it wasn't about one person. It was about actually the whole committee. And I can tell you, there were a number of people that we were concerned about. But when it came to discussions and voting, when it came to the point of what are the reasons that you want to advance, there were people that would defend some of the individuals, and they would be able to convince you enough to realize that even if you put them in the minority report, you may not have enough grounds to go against them. I mean, I had people that I wouldn't want to mention now because we've already agreed to approve them and I'm part of the committee, but there are people that we approved that I had reservations. But we agreed as a group, once we've agreed to pass this person, let it be.
Okay.
But then on the minority report, on the part that she said, we penned a minority report. Can I tell you some? Watch tomorrow. The people are now saying, oh, you know, you're picking on this one person and maybe she doesn't have enough money, she's a widow. Tomorrow you will see those that have been mentioned here that have integrity issues. Now the story will change and they will say, these are our people and these ones must pass. Watch the space. Tomorrow the House is going to support those people that have criminal cases. I mean, let me say this. I don't want to convict anyone. I am not able to. But even the DCI, when asked to present what we call a certificate of good conduct, which you must even take for any interview, on Aisha Jumwa, the DCI said that she has an active murder case, and it is pending. And he also wrote against, because the results were negative, he also wrote that she has some conspiracy to commit corruption, and that also is pending. So the decision hasn't been made. She has been charged but not convicted. But what is it that we ask our public and state officers to do? That once you are named and charged in a court of law, step aside for investigations to take place. Once you are cleared, then you can resume office. In this case, we are not saying that she's not fit to hold office in the future. We are only saying she's not fit to hold office during a period when she's charged with a murder and with corruption cases. That's what we are saying.
But I thought, Honorable Mbui, that the matter in regards to corruption has since been withdrawn by the Director of Public Prosecutions. But I also wonder, what implication does it have? And I'm looking also, Honorable Gathoni Wamushomba, that on Linturi's fate, some of the grounds that the minority report cites is questionable academic qualification, an elusive Indian university degree. He is involved in 35 civil suits. He has a recent attempted rape charges. The charges, of course, were withdrawn after the complainant decided to do so. And there's alleged forgery of 630 million shillings in form of loans that he may have procured. And I'm just wondering, what do you do with this kind of information? Yes, not convicted, but also if this is proven, then it could be resort to quite a bit of penalties. What do you do with that information as a parliamentarian?
Well, if there is any burden that Parliament of Kenya has carried, especially now that we are doing this kind of vettings, is what we call the principle of assumption of innocence. We have assumed that people are innocent until the relevant body proves us otherwise. And that principle of assumption of innocence is what is giving people leeway to move on with life even when they have very serious burdens on their shoulders. To be very honest, Gituko, if I was part of the committee my brother Mheshimiwa sat on, I would have a lot of reservations on some of these candidates because I'm honest. I am honest.
So what do you think the House should do?
Because of the principle of assumption of innocence, there's nothing we can do because the burden is not on us to prove them innocent or guilty. No, it is not our
Honorable Wamushomba, I'm asking, there's a minority report saying that we recommend, the few of them, the 8 of them, they recommend that the nomination of Aisha Jumwa, nomination of Bidhika Linturi is rejected. what should Parliament do based on what you're saying?
You know, Parliament is a political, we go through a political process. And being a political process, then we also operate under the principle of simple majority. If the majority of the committee members have given us a yes, we will go with that yes. He has rightly put it that it was 8 against
10.
10 against 7?
10 against 8.
10 against 8. So that's a principle of democracy.
Surely, Honorable
simple majority. So we'll go with the majority.
There are 349 members of the National Assembly. They are way more than the 10.
Yes, but we are guided by the report. We debate the report.
Yes, so
and we vote.
There are two recommendations. One, approve. Second, reject.
No, we have approve, reject. So we'll approve according to their recommendations. I think, have you looked at the report?
Mushomba, that's contradictory because you just said that majority have recommended Malonza's rejection. But you're saying you should go against it. Shouldn't you apply the same rule?
I have just said that our debates are anchored on the principle of simple majority in terms of the reports. The report they gave us, majority of them have recommended on Malonza's case. But on the other candidates, who are 21, they have individually given a verdict per every candidate. So we'll follow the report.
And you are saying...
so our voting system is going to be on individual candidates.
You know, let me help you and interject.
No, just hold on. Honorable Mushomba, you're saying that you'll follow the rule of simple majority based on the recommendation of the committee.
Yes.
And I am telling you, there's a specific recommendation to reject Malonza, which you said should be overturned.
If the spirit of the House would be we follow the majority, we will follow the majority. He has just said tomorrow you will hear another story. Because this is a political process where people look at the dynamics of the process, of the politics of the process, and then they decide on the dynamics. So tomorrow we might sit here and say, oh, everybody has recommended from the report that Malonza should not be adopted. But tomorrow morning, we might wake up and find the spirit of the House, and the Speaker will always rule based on the spirit of the House.
Okay.
As I left Parliament this evening, and I'm sure he was there, the spirit of the House, including the people who are seconding the motion and proposing the motion, including them who are part of this committee, were also speaking what we did not expect. We did not expect them to speak that way. But it looks like they sat down, thought about it, and thought probably, I think we have another chance. Then we can always succeed to push Malonza to get to the debate of pushing her to the next level.
Honorable Mboy, I know you want to respond, but just note it down because I need to get a response from Honorable Mushomba here on the nomination of Aisha Jumwa. She has a pending murder charge that carries a penalty of sentencing by death. If found guilty, that is. If it's reduced to manslaughter, then it's life imprisonment. But again, innocent till proven guilty. In this country, we have a history that in 2015, March 26th, the president then, President Uhuru Kenyatta, gave a report of some names, 175 of them. They included Charity Ngilu, Najib Balala, Kazungu Kambi, and who else? Felix Kosgei, but also Davis Churchill. And they had to step aside because they had been named in allegations by EACC. Way later, I think it was 2019 or 2018, CS Henry Rotich had to step aside because he was charged in court. Already, these are nominees that have already been charged. Aisha Jumwa is facing murder charge. Mithika Linturi's charge on attempted rape was withdrawn. What should you do if you're to consider what has happened before to cabinet secretaries?
What should we do? What we are doing today? Debating, vetting.
No, not asking about Parliament. I'm asking about your opinion. Based on...
my opinion. Like I said, I'm a very honest Kenyan. And I think we are yet to get to a level where our integrity conscience guide us on some of these things. On Aisha Jumwa, I think because I have seen a lot of attempt even from the executing bodies, including the DCI. I've seen a lot of effort from the DPP, kind of trying to salvage her case. Because I think she has now turned to be a witness, to be a government witness.
Is it confirmed?
I think so. Or it was a proposal, I don't know. But I saw something.
Verify whether it's confirmed.
I am not so sure also, but I saw something like that. So I think the turnaround of this whole case is somehow telling me that in Kenya, and I'm just being very honest with myself because I don't know how to pretend. In Kenya, it's very hard to get 100% justice in this country.
What does that mean?
There's so much that goes on. There's so much play that happens in the process of delivering justice in this country.
So if a full cabinet secretary stepped aside because of a charge, what should happen to someone who was already charged, headed to the cabinet?
What would happen? Somebody, if you
what should happen?
If you step aside, somebody else comes in. You are replaced, and life moves on.
Okay, so Honorable Mbui, because your report speaks for itself. Again, as you say, just 8 members out of the 21. She says that simple majority. So what are you hoping to achieve with this minority view?
You know, the reason we penned our minority opinion is because of exactly what's going on now. You can hear my colleague and friend here. She says that we must go with the majority's view. But the majority's view was to drop Penina Malonza. She defends Penina against the majority's view. And then when we come to Midhika Linturi and Honorable Jumwa, she changes again and says, no, let's stick with the majority's view. So I mean, if she's to be honest, she would say that the honesty here is that she has to defend a position because of political party affiliation. And I think that's where the tragedy is, because a lot of members from Kenya Kwanza, in fact, all members of Kenya Kwanza, would vote in a certain way, even in the committee. Why is the minority report having only names of members of the Azimio coalition? I mean, is it that no one in Kenya Kwanza could reason out the fact that if somebody is charged, normally they would even have to step aside? And we are not saying that this person should not be appointed. We're just saying at this particular point in time, let them sort out the case, then she can be appointed later. The president will remain president for 5 years. Mm-hmm. He can appoint her next month and the month after, once there is she's been cleared. So our opinion is based basically on law. And some, this report is here. She's even got it. The DCI's whatever report on the question on the certificate of good conduct is in this report, and it clearly indicates that she has 2 charges. So this is from DCI when she went to get her certificate of good conduct, mm-hmm. and DCI, the report came to Parliament. It is in this report that she has 2 cases. So even though we've had in the media a case was withdrawn, the DCI's certificate that came for Aisha in the interviewing panel, which is in this report, indicates she has 2 charges. That's why I said there are 2. Mm-hmm. So I think at the end of the day, I think Parliament is unfortunately ending up becoming a rubber stamp. Because, you see, the Constitution envisaged a situation where the President would nominate, mm-hmm. and Parliament would vet, and then would make recommendations, either approval or rejection. But it looks like it's become the norm that when the President nominates, then the Speaker reads out the names. Parliament becomes a conveyor belt. Take these names to the vetting committee, ask the hardest questions. The nominees don't answer, or they fail, or they pass. It doesn't matter. They have integrity issues. You just pass the whole list. Mm-hmm. And so as we had to make a statement, because remember, in the last 2 parliaments, there was no minority report because there was no minority in the vetting. In 2013, we boycotted that exercise. You
boycotted in 2017?
Yes, even in 2013. We didn't participate. Mm-hmm. And in 2017, we resisted. I think maybe the words are different. Maybe we resisted in 2017, boycotted in 2013. Mm-hmm. But both times, I can tell you, when government was being formed, the coalition I was in, which was unfortunately always the minority, was not in the House. Mm-hmm. So I think this time we had an opportunity to participate, and that's why we felt it was important to give our opinion. Okay. At the end of the day, she's right that the House is going to vote either way, one way or the other, and hopefully we would want that the minority report goes through. Mm-hmm. That people see sense in the fact that if the Honorable Midhika Linturi is also my friend, but let me tell you, he himself, and you know, it was glaring, hundreds of thousands of Kenyans were watching. When he himself incriminated himself in front of the committee and said, those cases you're telling me are very few. I have 35 of them that you didn't even know about. And he went on and he talked about his family, he talked about issues. And I thought to myself, and it's so unfortunate because the exposure that you've given yourself to the public ties our hands in making a decision. Because how do I then pretend I didn't hear what he said? And I know my constituents heard, I know Kenyans heard, I know people out there exactly what happened. So we are making this decision for the we are trying to be fair to Kenyans.
Okay.
And we want Kenyans to also know that we are not just a conveyor belt, although I think somehow we are going to end up being tomorrow.
That's what is happening.
That's what I'm seeing happen.
So let me ask you this question, because I was keen to watch that every nominee, when they came, the speaker was chairing that committee would ask them, what is your net worth? They would respond, what is your story? They tell their story. What value is that information? When they tell you that Musalia Mudavadi is worth 4 billion shillings and Malonza is worth 300 million shillings, and in between there are so many other figures, what do you do with that information? What value?
Okay, for the reason behind that, I think in my considered opinion, is that it is a way of identifying how much this person is worth, so that if you compare that probably 5 years after they've been in office. I mean, if you come in and you're worth only maybe 1 million, and then in 5 years you're worth 5 billion, then there's obviously going to be questions of how did you amass this 5 billion in the 5 years? So that's one of the reasons. The other one is for Kenyans to know the kind of person that is going to assume office. Because, I mean, like, during the campaigns, we were told this will be a government of hustlers, Mama Mboga, Boda,
and then when
small peasant farmer. So when they came on the floor, I was waiting to see the net worth of Mama Mboga, maybe 200,000, maybe 10,000. I was shocked. It was, the average combined wealth is like 1.2 billion. So anyway, I think the real issue would be to compare it between now and the future. That I think is that
an average of 15 billion across 24 nominees is not 1.2 billion.
Well, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Well, he may want even to say there are 2 billion.
Could be just over half a billion.
But I think they were trying to, it's like we are trying to build a case for the DCI.
Honorable Gadoni.
Institutional memory for the DCI.
Honorable Gadoni, because he says that one of the value is that you have to know if today someone says they are 4 billion shillings worth when they conclude their time, they are 5 billion shillings. We haven't seen any person being assessed based on that, apart from Simon Chelugui, who in 2017 or 2018 was worth about 798 million. This time round, he's worth 993 million shillings. But still, what value do you have with that information? Because no one appears to be asking those questions, even the source of that wealth in practical sense.
Well, I think to me, I found like that question was a little bit too irrelevant for this process, because even in the past, for the people who have declared that they are worth 10 billion, and then we find scandals over their names and their practice, nothing really happens over that. So to me, I think it was just a procedural question, and I didn't see it, its value in the whole process, because it has happened in the past. We've had people who've had to step aside, like, for example, when you talked about Henry Rotich. Mm-hmm. I'm sure when he was vetted, I might imagine that when he was being vetted, he also was asked the same question. And then afterwards, what happened? So I think it was, to me, it was not a really relevant question.
By the way, Sam,
yes.
Let me confirm that those questions are contained in a schedule that is attached to the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011. So it was even debated by the House and passed by the House before either of us was in the House. Mm-hmm. So it forms the basis upon which these questions are. So the part of the net worth is one of those questions. Mm-hmm. And that's why we are trying to just figure out what do we think maybe Parliament at that time in its wisdom thought that they should. Why did they think? And I think that's probably one of the reasons.
Because the reason I'm asking that question, if it was to have value, then it would mean that someone says that they're worth 10 shillings. Then they tell you, how did you get these 10 shillings? And it would help to have institutions that would know going through that. Did you ever receive any recommendations, whether it's from EACC or DC or whoever, on the source of their wealth?
Now, interestingly, the only part in that schedule was a question on what they are worth. but how they acquired it was not part and parcel of that document. So a few times we did ask actually individually, not that it was part of it, but we asked them how did they acquire it? How did you acquire that house? How did you acquire this property? And they would give answers. But that was, you know, individual members asking individual questions. It isn't part and parcel of the report. But I think it's important that going forward, as you've said, that they be able to indicate how they amass this wealth. Because, I mean, if somebody is worth maybe 400, 500 million, and all of that is, you know, is sourced through corruption, then they really should be knocked out. And I think that was probably the other reason why that is in the schedule. And I think on that particular part, we were not very keen. But I did try to ask one of the nominees, even a basic question about taxation. And there was a lot of, they were very evasive, you know. Some of these nominees, and I mean, it was in public domain. I was doing it. You are watching me. So we would ask, you know, this money you've built over the period. You said you've increased your wealth by a few hundred millions. Did you pay taxes on it? And someone says, no, you know, it's a land that I had that has, you know, appreciated in value. So it, you know, sometimes I would give you answers that you can't really pin them down on.
Okay. And so, Honorable Gadano Moshomba, because the Constitution requires that once the President nominates certain persons, they have to go through the House, especially to at the cabinet level and principal secretaries. Moving forward, what is this that you think we need to fix so that there's more value from this process, not just what he's saying about rubber stamping?
I think in future, like he has said, having looked at what happened, although they resisted 2017, and he has confessed that he was one of the resistors. You remember the feast? The ones who were saying resist, they were doing resist all the time. They resisted to participate in the process that he participated now for appointment, public appointment and parliamentary approval. I think in future there is no need of us going through this whole vetting process. Reason being, the obvious things that we thought probably would come out, and we watch televisions, these things coming out and unfolding, are not as weighty as we thought. I'm speaking as one of those that did not participate in the vetting process, but watched television and followed the discussions. Some of these things that we thought surely would carry a lot of weight and would give us a reason why so-and-so should not be nominated, even them, the members of the committee, ignored them. I mean, when somebody comes in and says, I don't have my certificate because I cannot access my house, because I have a court order not to go to my house to pick my certificate, and you overlook that, and you still move on, and somebody comes and says that I have 35 civil cases, and they are giving me trouble. How will you work for Kenyan Parliament, for Kenyan public, members of public, if you have 35 civil cases? You'll spend 365 days in court corridors. When are you going to work? So we imagine, some of those things would probably maybe, you know, give them very, very weighty reasons as to why they should disapprove. But to my shock, even those that are calling themselves opposition, have approved.
No, we haven't.
Some of them, I'm saying some of you, not
no,
you.
None of
some
them.
of you, because they are 7 against 8 against 10. Okay. I mean, where did those numbers come from?
Okay.
So to me, I don't think we are doing the right thing. Honestly, I think the president should be given the leeway, probably maybe to appoint his people and move on with his presidency and his executive, and then we wait for these people on the floor of the house and roast them properly.
Right. I'm just wondering.
No, I'm speaking as a member of parliament, because honestly, I mean, if you're defeated up there, then we wait down here.
I'm very happy the way you've put it, because you see the people who actually approved the team that you just talked about was a team that belongs to a coalition of Kenya Kwanza. The team that I represent and that I was with in the House, we disapproved. And that's why we wrote a minority report. I am very happy that you, being in Kenya Kwanza, can even see the light.
but that's reality.
Thank you.
And it would be stupid of me. It would be stupid of me, Bwana Mheshimiwa,
yes,
for me to sit here and somebody who schooled with me in the University of Nairobi watches me on this television speaking fanatism.
Thank you.
All right?
Okay.
Of a political party.
Translate it to a vote tomorrow. support my position.
Hello, I said if I was in the committee,
no, I'm waiting for
I
you
had some reservations for some candidates. I said that at the onset of this discussion. Because because I am not here because I want to praise whoever wants to be praised. I am not elected as a member of parliament by my people in Githunguri to go and sing praises in parliament. I'm elected to stand and defend the Constitution of Kenya, and I actually took an oath. And the Constitution of Kenya, Chapter 6, has laid down all what I'm supposed to be defending, isn't it? Okay. So, I mean, we should be real to ourselves.
All right, I hear you say
I know
that,
maybe there are some people from my team, from Kenya Kwanza, who roast me tomorrow, but I'm used to controversy.
Wow, interesting, because you said that moving forward, maybe you shouldn't even have the cabinet vetting.
Yeah, because
yet it is contained in the Constitution that with the approval of Parliament, that has to happen. I'm just hoping that you have some views on how to make it better. But all the same, now, once this process is over, whether there's rejection or not, then they get to work. And already we are seeing some of the proposals that the President has been giving, including how to deal with the current situation, which is a drought. We've seen the ODM leader, Raila Odinga, saying that the government is not committed in dealing with this. What do you think must be some of the urgent areas that the new cabinet must focus on once you make a decision, perhaps tomorrow?
Oh, what a nice question. Can I be selfish and start with what I think my people want tomorrow? Water. I come from a constituency where we are the wetland of Nairobi. We are the source of Ruiru Dam. We have a lot of water. We produce over 160,000 cubic meters of water every day, but my people have no water. So I'm looking forward to the new CS in charge of water, sitting down with us, coming up with a new strategy on how to make sure that our people get water. I'm not only speaking about Githunguri, where I represent, but I'm speaking about the whole of Mount Kenya region, and I think the whole country. We have a serious, serious challenge with water. So I'm looking forward to seeing the new Kenya Kwanza government's policy on water and how water is going to be distributed equally in most parts of this country. I'm also looking forward to seeing or to hearing how we are going to take care of unemployment. It's a serious, serious issue. The president campaigned around the hustler movement, the hustler nation, giving them hope, giving them, making them look forward to the new government. So I'm truly looking forward, to seeing how we are going to lay down the new strategies to make sure that we accommodate and assimilate as many young people, jobless young people as possible. I'm also looking forward to an opportunity to discuss serious strategies on how we are going to have food sustainability in this country. It is sad that we are endowed with very, very good weather in this country, with a very good climate, very good soils, very good topographical, patterns of this country. But we are not able to feed our own population. It is sad. And therefore, I am looking forward to having very serious and concrete discussions around food sustainability, reducing post-harvest losses that have been affecting our agricultural baskets, and how we are going to overcome inadequacy when it comes to food sustainability. Okay, all right. And Honorable Boy, because you sat in the panel that was vetting these nominees, did you get the indication whether they are really aware of the current urgent issues that Kenyans are dealing with, and even how you reconcile that with a statement by the President today that it will take up to a year for Kenyans to really enjoy lower prices of unga? Some in the interviewing process, the vetting panel, there was a lot of reference to bottom up from a lot of these nominees, and when push came to shove, some of them had no clue exactly why they are saying that. I think it's just a slogan they have all decided to use. And I really would like to also, chip in on what my colleague has said. I'm also looking forward to the Kenya Kwanza administration keeping the promises that they made to the people. I mean, they talked about cost of living coming down. It's unfortunate, more than a month now, the cost of living is going up. I'm looking forward to the price of unga going down. And without subsidy, I don't know how that's going to happen. I'm looking forward to the cost of fuel going down because that really affects... You don't believe in the subsidies on production? Well, that's what they said, but that's not what they said in the campaign trail. So that's what I'm saying. I'm hoping they could keep their promises because
I mean, if you know, a hungry person is an angry person. You don't want to keep a Kenyan for a year with unga at over 200 shillings, and you think they'll be comfortable. I think they needed to have done quick, because at the end of the day, you know, my concern, Sam, is that during the period of electioneering, there was a lot of promises, and these hustlers were told that everything will improve immediately after you cast your vote in our favor. Now, unfortunately, a month later, they are told, no, it's not going to work like that. Wait for another year. Now, there were those that were expecting that they will continue getting, you know, those kazi mtaani, and they would be continue getting jobs. They were told, no, forget that. They will look for opportunities maybe when we start our housing programs. So I think I'm looking forward to Kenya Kwanza fulfilling their promises to Kenyans, because if they do that, then Kenya would be a better country. But if what is happening continues, then maybe they were using those as electioneering slogans just to get into office. I remember one of the things that they said was that they will grow the economy without borrowing. I'm really waiting to see that.
Gituko, allow me to correct him.
Please,
allow me to correct him on 2 issues he has said, because he was not in the campaign trail where the president promised goodies, but I was there. And he said that we did not promise on lowering the cost of production. I think I want to correct him because I was there. The president personally came to my constituency in Githunguri, which is 100% agricultural basket, and he promised that he's going to make sure that he provides affordable fertilizer, and that is what the president has done. So I want to correct him, my brother. No, I also want to correct him because he said there are things that we promised that are going to happen immediately after we are elected, and they have not happened. We promised that we are going to make sure that we rescue our generation from CRB listings, and that has happened. We have started relieving a lot of young people from CRB listing. So I think that has happened already. So it's not good to generalize, Mheshimiwa, and say that nothing has happened. Whatever they promised, nothing has happened. None of this is going to be a miracle. I mean, it has to take a route. And the roots are shaping day in, day out.
Honorable Mushomba, away from what you say, rescuing them from the listing, are they accessing credit now? Sorry? Are they accessing credit now?
A lot of them, yes.
From where?
From where?
That I think we'll discuss another day.
No,
from where?
We will discuss another day. But
if it's work in progress, it's fine.
Yes, it is work in progress. It is work in progress. Let us discuss that another day, because there are some things that I am not supposed to disclose because I'm not the party official spokesperson.
But if they're already benefiting, then there is nothing to hide, is there?
Yes, I mean there's nothing to hide, but that's not what I'm supposed to be. There is no benefit.
There's no benefit to the hustler in terms of credit. There is no benefit in cost of living.
We also hear Fuliza and the rest of the people reducing their tax, their what are they called? Their interest rates. Who are they targeting? Who are the Fulizas? Are they not hustlers?
Of course, the president.
When those interest rates are lowered down, it means that the hustlers are able to pay their small loans, right? And therefore, they're not going to be in the CLB listing. That is one of the routes. I've said we promised, yes, but it is not going to be a miracle. We are taking routes day in, day out, step by step. We are getting there.
Of course, the president has said that he will be unveiling the Hustler Fund.
That is why I'm saying I'm not going to discuss that.
On the 1st of December. No, it's fine. I'm just stating what the president said on Shujaa.
But on that issue of the Hustler Fund, it's one of the questions that we're asking. And the nominees that we asked about the Hustler Fund seem to have no clue. But one of the things that came out was that there would be an interest of up to about 9%. And remember, Sam, that we've had the Uwezo Fund that had 0 interest rate that was targeted at the hustlers. There was a youth fund, which was at about 3%, the Women Enterprise Fund, which was also very low. So I'm just asking myself, if the youth, the women, and the hustlers who are in the Uwezo were getting interest that was almost 3% and below, now they're going to get it at 9%. How is it an improvement? You know? So we need to be careful. And,
is there any official communication that it will be 9% though?
They've all talked about it.
What I've heard is
he's actually discussing something that he also don't even know. So I think the best thing is we wait for the Hustler Fund to be launched. We get all the details and the components around the Hustler Fund, and then we can discuss.
You are
preempting.
I'm not preempting because you had a nominee that actually talked about it in the vetting.
Well,
and they said
all right,
just be slightly below 10%.
I want us to take a look at some of the feedback that has been coming to us. But as we do that, Is there any nominee that really stood out for you? Do I begin with the Honorable Mbui? Any few nominees that stood out for you that you say, this is the right man or the right woman for the job?
I think there was a nominee for the health docket. Somebody, I think, was
Susan Ofula.
Yeah, I felt that she had been in the industry for a while, you know, involved in the industry, in the health industry, in different categories, and she had the requisite training. And she was very, very clear in her mind about how she would progress the ministry and how she would deal with the cartels and all that. She sounded very convincing. To me, I think that was one nominee that seemed to have been in the right place. And that is why even when it came to discussions, no one had any questions about her.
Just one?
No, there were many others, but you said the one.
I said a few. What about
okay, for me, Moses Kuria sounded, of course, I'm proud because Moses Kuria comes from my county, but that notwithstanding, I think he came out like somebody who knows his trade well, his trade docket well, having practiced in banking, having practiced in international community. I think he sounded like he knows what he's doing. And even listening to him in the corridors, you know, around here, on some of the strategies he's planning to take. For example, like, you know, looking for people who are going to come and invest on what he's calling the Nairobi Financial District. He's calling it Nairobi Financial Center, you know, coming up with a new financial center where a lot of investors would come in and really boost our economy in terms of investment. That's something that really pulled me, and I felt like Moses Kuria is a good candidate to serve as a trade and industry CS.
Okay, all right.
Yes. And I'm also very proud of him because he comes from my county, and of course because I campaigned with him, though he did not get the right amount of votes to become the governor. I think the route he has taken is quite going to be beneficial for this country.
All right, interesting views. And of course, we may have mentioned Najib Balala in the wrong form. We wanted to mean that there are some cabinet secretaries that were asked to leave office after they were named in the list of shame. They were Kazungu Kambi, that time of Labor, Felix Koskei of Agriculture then, Michael Kamau, that time of Roads and Transport, but also there was Davis Churchill, that time of Energy, and Charity Ngilu, that time in the lands docket. We never really meant to mention Najib Balala in the wrong context. But let's now take a look at the feedback that you've been sharing with us at Citizen TV Kenya. At Sam Gituku, the hashtag to use is NEWSNIGHT. Diego Simba, you're saying that appointing someone accused of murder is the lowest level we can compromise integrity. Another one, having a whooping 35 cases in court. Congratulations, Honorable Mbui Robert, for your consistency in defending public interest. Who else is here? Oringe Waswa, the Ruto administration pledged transformational and development-oriented leadership, but some of the people it nominated to cabinet to deliver development and transformation have checkered profiles. How will service delivery be achieved? What else are we looking at? Nyantika Chester, you're saying that what an irony. MPs Emase and Mukami played the gender card during vetting of Aisha Jumwa, yet they didn't deem it fit to support Martha Karua, who even fits the bill to lead Kenya as a president. Was she running for president?
Deputy.
Deputy.
Kinjo, HGG1, what a name. Why is it that this principle of innocent until proven guilty does not apply to all Kenyans? The moment you are not cleared for certificate of good conduct, you cannot even be shortlisted for a job. Yeah. If someone is not of good conduct, he is not fit for the job. Your final words of what a parliament must do, and I know you have dwelled on it, Honorable Godeno Mushomba, but what do you think if all of you are to be called to conscience of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 that talks about integrity of leaders, as Chapter 6, integrity of state officers? What is this that if the drafters of the Constitution of 2010 were to now look at that report, what would they say?
I don't know whether they can give us anything above 30% of achievement, maybe below 30%, and that is sad, very sad.
And so what must Parliament do tomorrow?
Unfortunately, like I said, we are guided by the standing orders that has its own rules and procedures, and we cannot operate outside them.
And they stem from the Constitution, no?
Of course, some of them are embedded. I'm not a lawyer, but I guess some of them are embedded. So our hands looks like they are there. They are not completely tied, but they are not completely loose. They are there. But I wanted to say something, and probably maybe pose this question to our viewers. If Malonza was dismissed or was rejected because she just can't express herself, or she doesn't look like she knows what she's doing, yet her papers are proving otherwise, if she could not speak, or she was not able to speak, could she have passed because her papers were looking good?
I hear you. Honorable Bui, what is it that your colleagues, the 349 of you, must do tomorrow?
First and foremost, I want to tell our members that Kenyans are very skeptical about the vetting process. I was in Homa Bay and met one of the priests in that neighborhood, and I think he was a bishop, and he says that you're just going to pass them all. And you could tell that he didn't want that to happen, but he believed that was what was going to happen, noting that he spoke to us who were in the minority. So I think Kenyans expect a lot more from us, and I think Parliament needs to break these chains of being, of being held captive by the executive. Parliament needs to break those chains and be independent, act independently, act in the best interest of Kenyans. And whenever we have these situations of vetting, I think also Kenyans also need to play an important role, because I've had comments out there even in social media, or this person is from your tribe, so you should support them, or this is a widow, so you should support them. And I begin to ask myself, so what is the purpose of vetting if even the Kenyans, who in their own constitution gives us a mandate to vet, also want to take sides because of tribe, because of gender, or she's a woman, so you can't fight a woman? It beats all logic. So I think Kenyans and parliamentarians need to understand we must do the best for the country. Right. And that is why we must borrow also from the developed world, where even the Prime Minister, a small mistake occurs, they take the responsibility and resign. And you cannot hang on to office and hang on to being appointed, even when you know that there are question marks. Go clear your name, then come back and serve Kenyans.
Okay, all right. And of course, there's so much feedback that is coming to us through 22422, including someone saying that a vetting committee that has the majority and the minority ostensibly on party royalties is no committee. And I'm really happy on how Godano Mushomba is saying she's truly honest. How I wish we would have had people of her caliber. She doesn't, well, I don't understand what those other things are saying. But anyway, thank you both. Honorable Godano Mushomba, Member of Parliament for Githunguri constituency in Kiambu County.
Thank you.
And Honorable Robert Mboi of Kathiani constituency in Machakos County. And of course, over to the members of Parliament here. The National Assembly will tomorrow continue with a debate on the report of the vetting committee or the appointments committee, and they will be making a decision tomorrow. They will vote. It's up to them to decide whether to vote for all of them together or a nominee at a time. My name is Sam Gituku. This has been Newsnight, sitting in for Wahiga Mora, who is away for the moment. Bye for now. See you soon.